By the way, I'm Prajeet. I lead the corporate relations and global partnerships for Kerala Startup Mission. Very hearty welcome to you all in this the panel discussion and the panel of experts. We have incubation specialist, we have angel investor and the mentor to the Indian startup ecosystem, and we have a VC and a GTM specialist globally. So let me start this panel. Maybe you can quickly have a round of introduction, like your profile and what you do in the startup ecosystem.
Hi, good evening. I am Preethi, managing the Incubation Center at NIT Calicut, my designation with Chief Executive Officer. We started the Incubation Center at NIT Calicut in the year 2004. So since then, we have this Incubation Center working basically out of the Host Institute at NIT Calicut. Basically, leveraging on the expertise available at NIT, mostly into into supporting the product development startups, and trying to give the expertise and infrastructure available at NIT to the benefit of startups for basically their product development and basic validation, and up to an MVP level mostly. A little bit of funding given to them as grants and loans to help out their development. That funds may not be sufficient to go on a bigger scale and go to the market, but just will be sufficient for the product development. So this is, we have 100 plus companies gone out of the incubation center. Some of them in a very good level and maybe having more than 100, 200 employees, around 4 to 5 of them. This, altogether employing around maybe 1,500 people put together. So this is the small, humble, initiative from the NIT side, NIT Calicut side on the incubation of startups. And yes, looking for more onto this technology, what is happening in the NIT to transfer to the startups also. In this era of the startups, technology and new ideas, we hope we will have a bigger role to play in this innovation ecosystem. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Preethi. I guess we have a lot to discuss about the specific activities that NIT TBI is actually into. We'll come to that. PKG sir, you can go next.
Yeah, my name is Gopalakrishnan. I'm driving Malabar Angel Network now in Kerala. So we are a group of about 80 to 90 angel investors in startups. And in the last 4 years, we have invested over 7 to 8 startups, which is a small number, very standing. But we hope to grow more in terms of getting more investors into our fold and encouraging startups in Kerala. One of the things we have been doing in the last 4 years is to, let's say, evangelize the culture of angel investment in Kerala, and we actually work with the Kerala Startup Mission and incubators like NIT, IIM, other incubators in engineering colleges, etc. My background is that I worked in corporate for the last 32 years, and I have been very active in the startup ecosystem in India. I live in Bangalore, although I'm from Kerala, and I have personally invested in over about 50 startups, which is not a small number, I guess. So I think in Kerala, the investment in the startup is still at a very early stage. You have all the building blocks for that. You have incubators, you have nodal agencies like Kerala Startup Mission, you have IEDCs and all the engineering colleges. You have all, and your startup. You are very, very innovative, imaginative, ambitious founders. But what's missing in Kerala is the investor mindset of investing in startups. Because we are still attuned to the habit and let's say practice of investing in land, gold, FD and all that. I think putting risk capital, as somebody mentioned the other stage, in startups is still very early in the Kerala society's mindset. And one of the things that we at Malabar Angel Network and there are digital other angel networks in Kerala, we all have been trying to do is to work with the nodal agencies actually at Startup Mission and trying to evangelize and inculcate this culture of investing in startups. So more than really saying, look, we are investing in this startup or in this startup, I would be happy to say, look, we are making this revolution happen. And in my opinion, in the next 3-4 years, you will find Kerala like any other metro, right, in terms of investing in startups. If you look at the numbers in Kerala, I think I can count, there may not be more than 50 okay, active angel investors. And if you look at the number across the country, it may be 10,000. If you look at Bangalore, it may be 2,000. Right? So in Kerala, it's 50 active investors. Somebody will be dabbling here and there, but I'm not counting that. So that's the gap, and that's the gap I think all of us, all angel networks around Kerala Startup Mission, along with the incubators, we are trying to kind of bridge this gap in the next 3 to 4 years.
Thanks, sir. Alongside an investor, we have got a great mentor. So any startups over here who are looking for a great mentor, please reach out to PKG, sir. Coming to Swethal.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon. My name is Swethal Kumar. I'm the CEO of Startupscale360. I live in Dubai. I've been living in Dubai for 22 years now. Spent predominantly for a company called Mubadala Investment, which is one of the largest sovereign funds in the world, managing $300 billion portfolio company globally. Mubadala has actually created I would say, positive impact in Indian startup ecosystem by investing through SoftBank Vision Fund. I think a lot of unicorn produced by SoftBank Vision Fund, we can proudly say that Mubadala is, because they are one of the LPs in the fund, contributed to the success of the Indian startup stories. So most of my involvement when I was in Mubadala was in the, especially for the large greenfield project, brownfield projects, likes of setting up a big aluminum smelters in aerospace industry, looking at 22 portfolio companies, and financial services with G Capital. I was also part of healthcare assets, and how I shifted to the ecosystem building startups when I was selected by Mubadala to set up Hub 71, which is actually one of the largest startup ecosystem in Middle East, based out of Abu Dhabi. And that's where I saw the growth going to come in the Middle East because of the amount of the capital allocated by the government, amount of the various initiatives to attract international funds, as well as the startups to essentially make UAE or more specifically in Abu Dhabi to create the startup, for the startup a soft landing platform to expand to the wider MENA region. And that's where I felt there's a need to do more and more work. And I left Mubadala, started Startupscale360. Essentially, we are an ecosystem builder. We help startups to scale up to wider MENA regions, to globally. We're not limiting just to the UAE, but essentially we are a global ecosystem player. We are one of the partner of KSUM as well, where we see how we support scale startup mission startups to expand, Middle East regions. I'm on angel investors. Invested the startup in India, in Germany, in Brazil, as well as I'm the co-chairman of London Business School Middle East Angel Network. So I'm an LBS. I'm a London Business School alumni, and very recently they created an angel for. So I'm recently appointed as a co-chairman, where we want to see the how upon alumni network of LBS to invest in a global startup. Sorry about the technical glitches. It happens. What we do essentially, we look at a lot of global deals, and we see that how we can help them in terms of scaling up their business, providing a new market opportunities, providing access to the capital. Also, one of the ways we create impact in our startup ecosystem is by running Entrepreneurship World Cup. This is a global competition we have the official rights to do in 4 countries: UAE, Malaysia, Madagascar, and Morocco. Essentially, this competition is where you select. Think about a football World Cup or any cricket World Cup. You run at a country level, and then you select the the winners, take it to the global level, and the global competitions they compete for the $1 million cash prize. So if there's any startup, please apply for that. It's open for everybody, open for all the countries. However, if you are thinking to enter into UAE, you can always select UAE as a country to apply, where we can help to not only attract you to the Middle East regions through UAE, but also give an opportunity to get into the global final to win a $1 million cash prize. Other things in my company, which is our third vertical, we do is actually help setting up an innovation lab for the large corporate. This innovation lab it's called the Playroom. Essentially, the Playroom is like a playground for the corporate to look at for the disruptive idea. They work with the startups, and they also bring their teams with the problem statement. And essentially, we create an entrepreneur as well. So it's not just focusing on entrepreneurs, but also the entrepreneur. And we have 4 programs around the students. So you mentioned about Ms. Preethi about the incubation. So we also designed the program for the university. It's actually started with Kerala Startup Mission into 2020 during COVID. They run an amazing program for student challenges, and that's where we found that there's a lot of amazing ideas that students come, but somehow I think because of the lack of support from the universities, academia institution in terms of the funding, as well as in terms of the providing scaling opportunity, many of the idea just dies there. Or even if it's a institution that provides some sort of initial capital like what you guys are doing, I think still when it comes to the growth they struggle. And hence when students graduate, especially because of their peer pressure from from other students that they got a job, they didn't get a job. Also when they see the family pressures, they give up their entrepreneur journey. And essentially that idea resides at the university or academia, and they don't know what to do with the IP if it is created. So there's a lot of challenges which we found, and that's also an area where focusing, we design a program, work very closely with the university. And the last thing is that we also have the venture studio. We focus more on looking at the idea level, where we see that how we can provide our the support with our partner company called Code and we help to also see that idea can be translated into MVP or some sort of a prototype which can be eventually become commercialized product. So that's the overall area we focus.
I must say, Swethal, Swethal is actually a great connector of the startup ecosystem. He really supports startup in scaling from Kerala, from India to Middle East and to other countries. And he also has got a tremendous network of investors, GTM specialists with whom he's doing amazing work in the ecosystem. So yeah, with that I will go to my first question to PKG sir. So this question is more on the investment part, like investment to the ecosystem. What is your since you have been into the investment since last so many years, so I would like to know your insights, like what is the investment scenario in Kerala versus non-Kerala startup ecosystem? Like is it like very dynamic in Kerala, or is it like very dynamic in the non-Kerala ecosystem? And what is that thing that can be improved if you find glitches anywhere in any ecosystem?
Clearly, India is behind, let's say, US, right? So Kerala is behind. I mean, we shouldn't have the hesitation accepting that Kerala is behind metros like Bangalore or NCR or let's say Hyderabad or Chennai. I think it's okay. I mean, it's fine. I think it's very well at always. But I think I answer that both from the investor and the startup founders and as far as investment concerned, I already mentioned, I think Kerala is an extremely conservative society. We can't take risks, let's be clear, right? And investment in startup is risk capital, like somebody mentioned, is risk capital. So our society is still way behind, I must say. Even though that there are so many technocrats and so many wealthy businessmen here, let's look at Trivandrum, okay, GTEC. Right? I'm told that there are about 500 companies in Technopark, Trivandrum. And you take 10 people from that company, 10 top leaders from that company. There are, let's say, 5,000. Let me discount it to 2,000. There are 2,000 leaders who can actually invest in startups. Just taking Trivandrum and GTEC as an example. I mean, GTEC as in the tech companies. But how many of them really invest in startups? There are not be more than 10, 20. Because they just feel so uncomfortable in taking that risk. Right? So that's the thing. That the number of angel investors in Kerala have to significantly go up to encourage the local startup ecosystem. Otherwise, the startup founders here have to go elsewhere, like some of the startups here have actually gone to US and raised funds, right? There are success stories. So that's one thing from the investor angle, that we must actually break our traditional mindset and say, confidently come forward and say, look, we are ready to invest in investment startups. Number one. From the founders side, I think the entrepreneurs or the founders in Kerala, in my opinion, have to be far more innovative. Okay, far more innovative. I think if you are starting a Me Too startup, something which is like a copy of another startup, with some tweaks here and there, you are not going to get funds, right? It has to be really innovative, really disruptive. It has to change the industry in which you are playing. So I think I would say number one, they have to be far more innovative. And this doesn't mean they are not innovative. If you look at the top 10% of the 5,000 odd startups in Kerala, I'm sure they are doing some stellar pioneering work, for sure. That's one. Second, I think they must be far more confident in terms of articulation, storytelling, right? And if you compare an average, let's say, metro startup founder and better than average Kerala startup founder, there is a significant difference. The confidence, the assertiveness, the ambition, the mindset of saying, look, I'm here to conquer the world, is there in, let's say, in Bangalore. Whereas here, to use a typical Malayalam word, we are all pounds. We are all a lot more submissive, lot more, accepting hierarchy and whatnot. So I think there is a significant mindset required in the mind of the investor. And third is, I think they have to be exposed. They have to read, they have to attend maybe events like this. Because business building is very different from product building, right? You can build a fantastic product, but that product may not result into a fantastic business. I think these two are entirely different ball games. And I think that Kerala startup founders must realize, like founders elsewhere as well, that building a business is far tougher, right, compared to building a product. And the sooner we realize that business management principles ingrained in building a business is fundamental, right, the better for us. So I would say these three characteristics from the founder side: little more innovation, less Me Too. Number two, little more confidence, little more articulate, little more storytelling capability. And number three, in terms of acquiring that knowledge of first principles of how to build a business, very different from how to build a product.
Glad that you broke down into points from two perspectives, from investors and founders. I guess the points that you have mentioned is pretty insightful. From the investment angle, now I am coming to the incubation angle. So Swethal, you have been in Middle East for quite a long time, right? So you have worked with several incubators over there. You have worked with several incubators other than Middle East and India. So how do you perceive, how do you see the difference there? What is the incubation level of the incubators based outside India? Perhaps you can focus on the Middle East and the countries where you have been, versus the incubators in Kerala or maybe in Calicut region. You can just throw some light on that.
I think the definition of incubation needs to first understand. A lot of companies, they see as like a real estate. Like you come and give a space, like incubate, right? But that's a very wrong approach in my view. As an incubator also, you need to see that how you can create the vibrant ecosystem, because you can, it's not about incubating a startup and getting a rent. Maybe you can just get a subsidized rental and all. That's not the way you can look at. So as an incubator, you need to have a mindset of an ecosystem builder, right? Given that you can incubate a startup, which means that, because a startup is at the end of the day is a linchpin. Like without startup, there is no ecosystem. So you need to get all the key enablers of this ecosystem, build a good partnership. What sort of a, let's say, great accelerator program you can introduce. Like if there is not available in Kerala, you look at from the region or from a global partnership perspective. The collaboration with the government is very important, because from a policy level you can see that what incubator role is playing, how it sort of a dovetail with the government visions. If there is a clear disconnect, I think it's completely failed, right? So those are angles needs to look at the collaboration with the government or even the regulator, because some of the startup that you may incubate is regulate into the regulated space. For example, in a fintech space, space tech space. So what sort of the policy or the regulation help for the startup that's incubated in the ecosystem? And look at at the end of the day, startup look for the money. Now, Mr. PK also said that there's a lot of awareness needs to be created for the angel investing. At the same time, you need to attract some VCs to come and invest, because not everyone VC is there to write a first check. I mean, there are few, but not everybody there to write a first check. So you depend on the investment that's done by angel. There's a validations, and then you bring more and more VCs to come, and then later for the growth capital, which means that as an incubator, you need to see that how you can even attract VCs who can look at the startups within your ecosystem, right? Who need a capital. University plays a big role in my view, because you can use the university for two angles for accessing the talent. A lot of young students are there looking for internships, looking to work in innovative ideas. So this is where incubator can collaborate with university, where the startup who cannot afford a lot of high-paying salary staffs, but at least tap those young talented mind and provide them opportunity to even learn from the innovative ideas and all. And that's where one way university can contribute by collaborating with good ecosystem. At the same time, I think there is a lot of money has been spent at the academia level for R&D and all, right? They have the space, they have the great mind professors and all, and startups need to tap those kind of facilities. So there's another way incubator can collaborate with the universities and the corporate. I think the corporate's also important, because, for example, likes of Microsoft, Google, they have their own idea lab, they have their own space where they look at a lot of the corporate problems, and where they see that can they throw this challenge to your incubated startups, and then startups can come with amazing solution, which usually corporate do not find that, because when the corporate open a tendering, most of the large IT company only come with their solution, and they go through the procurement process, and startup never get into that. They will never make. So it's very difficult to hack the procurement process of large corporate. But if a corporate collaborate with a good incubator where the amazing minds are there, they can throw this challenge and they can come with a solution. So this is what I see the great definition of incubation. Now this is what exactly working globally in multiple places. I mean, where even I was there. Hub 71 is an example where we created that sort of the ecosystem. So it's not about looking at the real estate angle. I think that mindset completely to stop. You are not incubator or not a real estate. It is beyond that. You need to see that what is the ecosystem that you create to support the startup, and at the same time you also want, you can also proudly say one of the startup that incubated exited, in the sense when they graduate from your space, because not every startup will be there at an incubator for a long time, because of the space constraint. They may want to grow, they may want a bigger office and all. But if they grow, if they actually raise multiple round of growth capital, you can also proudly say that this is the impact that we created. So sometimes you need to come up with that, also the impact report, so that more and more startups come to see that why I should come to you, why I should be incubated, so that you can show more and more success story.
I think that's a great, insight, great, comment that you made. Incubation should not be, limited to the, providing spaces, providing co-working, or, maybe the programs focused on the product development. It should be beyond that. It should be, also make sure that, we have our products validated with the customers. We have got, the limited, not limited, enough exposure, enough network where, our startups can, the cohort of the startups can be connected and, they can scale up. In fact, Kerala Startup Mission has got this program wherein we are trying to do all these things. Of course, there are something, which we are yet to do, but FFS is that program, Fail Fast to Succeed, wherein, we are trying to support handhold the startups in 4 stages. So, like there are 4 stages of startups in the life cycle: ideation, prioritization, then comes the, market validation, and then, scaling up, maybe commercialization. So in ideation and productization, like, the Pakka concept wherein, the incubation right now in Kerala works, focusing on converting the idea to the product, wherein, all the technical mentorship, all the, product related mentorship, all these things will be, assigned to the startup, and, we make sure that in that period the product is, MVP is developed. Then in the, other phases of piloting and other phases of commercialization, we have our own schemes, our own programs, like as Swethal mentioned, the corporates, the accelerator programs, which actually make sure that, these startups are getting connected to the global players. These startup products are getting validated properly so that, they can launch themselves in the market very soon. But of course, as Swethal said, there are yet more things that can be done within the Kerala startup ecosystem, and, we look forward to do that. Now coming to Preethi. Preethi, you are an incubation expert, right? And you have been running the incubation activities within the NIT TB and within the Calicut ecosystem very well. Just tell us, how it is like the incubation activity and the ecosystem support in Calicut. What are the challenges that you, face, and what is your thinking about, like, how to overcome those challenges, especially while running the incubation and ecosystem support activities in Calicut?
Yeah, so Prajeet, like, as we know, or rather as somebody was mentioning in the morning, there are around 50 plus incubation centers in Kerala throughout. So good density of incubation centers as well. So maybe if you take Calicut, there are around 5 incubation centers in the government sector itself, including NIT, IMK Life, IISR, that is Indian Institute of Spices Research, then, yeah, your presence, Kerala Startup Mission also is there, KSIDC just now wound up, and yeah, there are NIT also to an extent coming for this incubation of ideas, research outputs and all. So, yeah, there are a lot of good institutions which are giving a lot of importance to the research outputs and all. Now that the government policy is also more towards the patenting, commercialization of the researches, because we are all given the pressure, or rather, directions for filing more patents, not only filing patents, actually, what is the revenue generation that is coming out of the patents from in the academia itself. So it is actually pushing more towards the spin-offs from the academia, how you can, take or rather commercialize the research outputs and all. So basically I would say this is a very good ecosystem that is prevailing right now for the startups and incubation activities, especially connected with the universities and research organizations. Like, as you said, we have a good system, like R&D setup that is already there, established in the universities. And in Kerala, as you say, you can see many places, many kinds of, areas of expertise, like IISR is there in food, CFTRI in the marine side, marine technology and marine food side. Then you have TimeEd on the medical side in Trivandrum. So, and agri side, there is CPCRI, Kozhikode, and Agri Business Incubator in Thrissur. So, all different kinds of incubation centers and, associated with universities and research centers, and NIT there is for electronics and information technology, and NIT, of course, there for all the kinds of engineering side. So, yeah, apart from the IT, of course, which you are taking care, Kerala Startup Mission is taking care of very well. So this has got a very good ecosystem, but the utilization of that ecosystem, is it really properly utilized? Maybe I think we are yet to mature. The culture is there, yes. Definitely the startup culture is there. There are a lot of students, because for example, I would say even the small incubator in NIT is getting around 10-15 inquiries a month, is a good number actually. But the quality of the ideas that is coming in, maybe at least half of them would be just kind of the so-called edtech ideas, like which is very easy to have, and the ideas which is very difficult to materialize, like in the proper sense. Okay, so those kind of things which are rather going most into the IT side. Even the governments have got this clue, and they most of the funding schemes, they gear up towards the non-IT, like Niti Prayas and all non-IT kind of startup support that is being given by the government. So I'm not telling that the IT should not be there or anything, but yes, it has to be there. But still, the ecosystem, when it matures, yes, there has to be a lot more research outputs being commercialized, which will be the biggest contribution of the academia and research side. Okay, so yes, if you talk about the ecosystem, yes, the good culture is there for thinking about the startups. Now the option of any of the graduate or even the people, we have a lot of alumni who have come, who have more than 1 decade they have worked in MNCs and have come back and started their startups in our incubation center. Similar is the case with IMK Live also. So the innovation ecosystem in Calicut, yes, it's a good thing. And the difference, like we concentrate more on the early product development stage and validation stage. When, if you take the example of IMK Live, they're more into the commercialization and the next level of raising the investment side. So those at the different level itself, there are the incubation ecosystem supporting the startups, yes. And challenges, if you ask me, like of course, as PKG sir was mentioning, the lack of the kind of bridge funding, which they would like to have, like when they have a seed funding, when they have a grant for making their products, yes, that much they are happy. Now after that, what? Taking their product to the market, there is a funding gap which is happening, which will be definitely possible only with the individual angel investors who can come and maybe say if you start from 25 to 50 lakhs kind of funding, or rather something less than 1 crore kind of funding is what is required to help them out for taking their product into the market for the first commercialization phase. So that definitely is a challenge. So we require a lot more sensitization, maybe like these kind of programs wherein the requirement is spelled out very clearly. Okay, and of course for the quality, for bringing up the quality of ideas, yes, you require more on the, of course the system will get matured through, these kind of programs, these kind of interactions and all. And the startup founders also will learn sometimes in a very hard way that this is, the idea is not really good, and maybe they have to come up with a better thing. So this, yes, we look forward in a very optimistic way that in future, yes, we will have a much better ecosystem.
Preethi, I agree with your point, like, the amazing ecosystem here, the amazing culture, business culture here, but yet, yeah, there are a lot of potential wherein, we can tap and we can definitely improve on those things. PKG sir, specifically on the incubation aspect, how, Kerala or Calicut based incubator can attract right set of investors for its startups, and what do you think, what should Calicut or Kerala incubators, startup incubators do about that?
I think the pipe, that can visualize the pipe, you have startups which are having the incubator, and then they come out and then they get into the pipe of investment. That pipe is broken. Or it's partly fixed, that can be more fair. I think that pipe, the collaboration between investors and incubators definitely have to increase. That's what I see, at least in Hyderabad. And here is a very good example of how the bonding between investors and incubators can be of a different level. I think in Kerala that, as I said, first of all, there is a limitation on the number of investors in Kerala, and itself puts significant constraints, on the incubator ability to attract investors. So I think that obviously that root cause is that there's not a critical mass of investors here. So once you probably address that root cause, maybe several other things fall in place. But I think what is required definitely is a strong bonding between incubators and investors. And I think I was saying in the corporate report, let's say there are 60 odd incubators and 200 odd IEDCs in engineering colleges. The last 4.5 years I have been kind of running Malabar Angel Network, barring, let's say, 2 or 3 institutions here, a couple of incubators in Kochi. I haven't got a call. I'm really surprised that I haven't got a call from any of the other 50 odd incubators and 200 odd IEDCs saying, look, we have these fantastic startups, why don't you look at them? No call. So I'm very surprised, and it doesn't happen in other parts of the country. It's a very, very strong bonding between the incubators and the investors. Saying, look, come and see our startups. Come and evaluate our startups. Can you provide the mentoring to our startups? Can you get some domain experts to guide our startups? Right? Can you get some technical help to get our startups off the ground? Can you get some co-founders for our startups? So there is so much of work that goes on. But I think in Kerala, somehow I find that barring the top 5 to 10 incubators, out of the 200 odd, I'm counting IEDs incubators, 200 to 250 odd incubators. So barring the top 10, I think the rest of them, I wish there are some professors here, and they must, so I'm exposed to those IEDC coordinators. I ask them what are you doing really, right? There are these people Angel networks, there are your fund of funds schemes, there are PCs, there is Hurdle Kerala, there is so much of activity happening, but that pipe is broken. So I think something we should done to get that pipe, get that water flowing, seamlessly from one part to the other part. So a lot more collaboration I feel between incubators and investors. And second, even investors I feel they must be more on the ground. They must be more on the ground, they must be more active. So I don't have any hesitation in saying we have 80 to 90 members, but out of them 50 are active. So remaining 70 are passive, right? They don't have time. But these 20, so their mission is really to so-called evangelize angel investment and master the local system. They are ready for mentoring, they are available for mentoring. So, I mean, if I can tell Preethi, I was telling her last week that we have about 10 members in Calicut. But are we really tapping into the knowledge and time of those 10 angel investors? No. We are not tapping into them. They are all experts. One of our members is an expert in cybersecurity. Right? He worked in HCL for 20 years in cybersecurity. Just imagine the knowledge that is available to him. Now, I don't know how his knowledge can disseminate into the local areas. I'm really not able to figure that out. Similarly, there are domain experts in different areas. So I think there should be, in my opinion, a lot more collaboration between incubators and investors. And I think I would like to toss the ball into your court saying it's really the incubators, okay, who want to pull these investors. I mean, investors may not have time, but they'll always find time. I'm sure, at least people like me, I always find time. Right? So you can pull those investors and say, look, come and participate in our sessions, give guidance to our startups. Can you answer this guy for the next 3 months? Can you do some initial seed funding, whatever. So I think it's really the core of the incubators. We have 200 odd incubators in Kerala to really pull in the investors.
Well, I guess you have a valid point there, sir. So, if any incubator specialist, any academy incubator are there, perhaps it's a wake-up call for for the incubators as such. Why? Because as PKG sir mentioned, investors are definitely incubator friendly. Like they really would love to interact with the startups in different cohorts of the incubator. But yes, while working in the Kerala Startup Mission, while dealing with a lot of incubators, I think there is a gap in that mechanism. A lot of incubators interact with the investors through Kerala Startup Mission or through TBI or through IMK Live. But a mechanism should be there wherein, they can directly reach out to the investors, and, investors should, that bridge between the, each of the incubators, like 450 plus IADCs, 50 plus incubators, they should have, a direct bridge between the investors. Very valid point, sir. Okay, so from the investment angle to the, whole ecosystem stakeholder angle. So Swethal, just enlighten us, like, how we can do that, like, how incubation should think about creating a hub and spoke model, so that, it can get connected to all the stakeholders of the startup ecosystem. Do you have any points on that?
I think I already covered that point. Essentially, when you say hub and spoke, I think that's exactly the point of how you connect with the relevant stakeholders, right? All the key enablers of the ecosystems. And everyone plays a very vital role. And for startups, I think it's so important, even like PK sir said about mentoring. I mean, that's the basic thing. One would, essentially tap that kind of the access to the mentors or the thought leaders network that the incubator has it, right? And when it comes to the like capital, I mean, I was reading actually the statistic yesterday about the Kozhikode. Do you know where, like, in terms of the startup ecosystem index, where Kozhikode stands just in India, in terms of the ranking? They are number 40, right? So there's a lot of works to be done that, they are number 40, and globally, I found that they are in terms of the ranking in ecosystem index, 1078, right? So we are far behind. But it's one of the most educated states in India, right? In fact, in terms of the literacy rate, we are number 1, and it's great talent is there. But one of the things which I always seen that the startups over here, to be honest, I'm sometimes very, very blunt with the startup who approach me saying that, we want to scale up. And okay, how you want to do? We want to come to Dubai. I said, what the hell is this? Like, you have a huge market, India. Why are you not penetrating the market? That's the huge opportunity to become a unicorn in short time, where they struggle with the small market. It's a great market to come, don't get me wrong. But the thing is that outside Kerala doesn't mean there's a Gulf there. I know every house, everybody, one person is in Gulf. That doesn't mean that that's a way to scale. So I find really like, in fact, Kerala Startup Mission startups also, when I mentor as well, I think 99% that's the mindset. I find very few startups who actually say, no, I don't want to come to Gulf. I want to look at pan-India. And I have seen that kind of vision, and they're really successful. I mean, you spoke a lot about the funding. When I was reading about the funding things in Kerala, I think last year Kerala closed $33 million funding by the startup. Not an impressive number, to be honest. I mean, even Middle East put together has crossed $4 billion. India has 2022 had $40 billion of funding. 2023 came down because of the funding winter. We had less unicorns. But I think given that Kerala is close to amazing, vibrant ecosystem, Bangalore is there, Hyderabad is there, Chennai is there. But somehow, I think Kerala startup has not attracted a lot of capitals. When I was reading some of the stats yesterday, that there was no growth capital happened in the last 5 years. There was a lot of seed funding happened, there's a dip in the early stage, zero in growth funding. So as an incubator and all, this is a lot of takeaways. How you actually create the bigger impact where the Kerala startup can really attract the, lot of growth capital. We can create a unicorn. Yeah, we have an Open, which is a unicorn. Gen Robotics is great. It's one of the startup doing great. I think there's another one in the mobility space. I mean, I was personally thinking to invest. Remind me the name who was doing the recently the hurdle, all the electric cars. Charge mode. Thank you. One amazing startup, and they are the one who really think that India is a huge market. They don't want to come to Gulf. But what I'm saying is that these are the startup. How as an incubator you can support. How as all the ecosystem player can kind of create a positive impact on the startup. And the startup actually here also needs to change the mindset. They need to look at really broader India. Many of the startup who eventually from Kerala who wants to think of going outside Kerala, they say go into Bangalore. I said, as if there's no road beyond Bangalore, or come to Gulf. Really come out of your comfort zone, come out of the cocoon, get to the market, go to Bihar, go to even Assam, go to, really you'll find a solution. I know a lot of great solutions are here, but you are not utilizing the right market, right? And this is where you can see the market, there is a demand, but people from the startups from here are not going to meet the demand.
So this is, I assume, these are the things that incubators should focus on while...
Incubator plays important role, to be honest. I mean, this is to be honest, a lot of the young startups need a hand-holding, right? They need a coaching, they need a lot of supports. Incubator and all the partners create a lot of this awareness. They can see, bring a lot of insights. You can even take, I think one other way is incubator can do the exchange, startup exchange, right? I mean, that's one way to show them the real UAE. Sometimes they come with, I see a lot of startups, they come, burn money and then they go back. Because they think, there's a great market, but then after coming they realize that market is great, but not fit for all the startup. There are only few startups, I believe there's a real demand, they can come there. But I think one of the ways to test the water is to do this exchange program, right? And I think many of the global partners will be there to exchange the startup. T-Hub that way do really good, by the way. I really like the way T-Hub do. Very recently I've seen the exchange of startup with South Korea. And we were, before even T-Hub looked at the South Africa market, we were actually working with some of the South Korean startups. And we found this amazing, the technology they have, which this can be exchanged, right? And again, when you spoke about there's a pressure on the universities to come up with the patents, and these patented technology can also be exported. So I think incubator definitely plays a very important role, pivotal role in all this.
Okay. Preethi, we discussed about investments, like how incubator can think about it. We discussed about hub and spoke model, like how incubators can think about it. I have a different question to you. So you work with NIT TBI, and you also have the exposure to the academia ecosystem, right? So what do you think? How can that collaboration between the academia and the proper startup incubation setup can happen? And what is your view on identifying the research projects and supporting them to commercialize their projects?
Yeah, Prajeet, actually both these things, actually the industry and definitely the academia, it is always good if it goes hand in hand. There is a lot of things happening in academia, but in the industry also there is a lot of requirements, but still we have to say that there is gap existing between these two, which is the technology readiness level of the researches that is happening in the labs in the academia. How ready are they to get commercialized or readily could be taken to the industry is a big question. But to our experience, whatever happens in the academia is much below the normal commercialization level. So if there is some startup which is coming up with a, say, example, this is very important, especially in the deep tech side. So if they are coming up with a requirement or idea, if they could come do the work jointly with the academia side, it will be really a good, it can result in a very good, output. So that's one thing, or the startup could identify the researches that is happening in the institute or any of these organizations, which could be transferred. Okay, there could be, there are different processes for we have classic examples of the IIT Delhi, IIT Bombay, National Chemical Laboratory Pune, and all those kind of things, where the the technologies that are being developed over there is very smoothly transferred to the entrepreneurs who are working from there in their incubation centers itself. So that is one model which could be taken by us also, like, otherwise it is the Sri Chitra which is happening, the tech transfer which is happening on the medical technology, medical devices side. Where actually a collaborative development also happens from the industry, which is funded by the industry, where the researches are happening in the academia. So this kind of a hand-in-hand model of kind of a collaborative development or working very closely with the academia will actually reduce the gap between the academia and the industry, which will actually help for the first two steps of the startup life cycle, like rather the product ideation and even the product development, and to an extent validation level also, because at the validation level also you require, of course, when you go into the market, to understand the problems of the product that is developed, and again correcting if required and all, will definitely the support from the technical side, if it is there readily from the academic side, it is always a good thing. But still, our academic side, especially in Calicut, yes, we have to go a little more forward for reaching that kind of a level, first thing, frankly. So, but definitely, yes, we have the good example of IITs, which are there already. But still, the process has to be, evolved, and we have to smoothen that process, like, the transfer, the licensing out, all those kind of things. But there are some institutions like IISR and all which are doing on a smaller level the transfer of these technologies to the entrepreneurs, but mostly on the agriculture side, which are happening actually. But even CFTRI and all are happening. But still, we have a lot, especially on the engineering side and all, we have a lot more to go.
So maybe we can start small, but sustainable effort should be there,
right.
Continuous effort
we
should
have
be there.
to.
Great. Yeah. So we are running short of time, so maybe a quick one question to all of you. Okay, so just this question, like, if you plan to run an incubator, or if you plan to launch an incubator in Kerala, what are those one or two things that you would do differently that present incubation ecosystem is doing in Kerala, which actually can progressively contribute to the ecosystem? Who would like to go first?
I think the first thing which I'll look at that what Kozhikode can offer, right? I think one of the things perhaps the place is a hub for cultural heritage, Kerala in general, but of course in Kozhikode, the educational institutions, and also I think the agriculture space is also quite vibrant over here. So looking at that, what Kozhikode can offer is very important. Then I think if you are creating an incubation center, you need to create around that. But at the same time, you need to look at that how you can get international talent and technology, right? So what other thing is missing, how you can fill the gap, where you can attract different startup also to come, which means you need to provide some sort of a, the favorable landscape for them to enter into Kozhikode, why they should come. It's not necessarily international, even like a startup from the northern India or from, the western side of the India, any part of the India, why would they come to Kozhikode? Why they want to come to Kozhikode? I think that's where you have to think, where you can sort of create a bridge, right? And what you can offer to as a Kozhikode, as a Kerala, from a startup perspective, where they can have a more scalability of potentials. So I think that's where first thing you should look at. Then you create the incubations around that. And then you, like I said, I already spoke about a lot of the partnership. I'm not going to go, it's more like a cliche. But I think it's important that I think when it comes to creating incubations, it also need to see that how government can support, what sort of the incentive program you can design that, what are the rebate you can offer to the startups, that will help attracting different startups to come over here. Plus the young entrepreneur to start their entrepreneurship journey, right? Not everywhere you can just tap the angel or the VC capital. Already we heard from Mr. PK about the challenges which attracting the angels, right? So at least we can see that sort of a support come from the government as well. So all these angles are important when you're creating. And for this, from a startup perspective also, right? When they see that the ecosystem, even though the support is there, but if the ecosystems is really helping in terms of the problem which they're solving, right? in terms of what Kozhikode can offer in terms of that creating ecosystem, is also they need to see that how they can tap into that. And it's like a more, like I always say, every incubation is like a landing platform, right? It's not necessarily that really they can create a magic, but once they are into the incubation, they can use the network and the support and the partnership that has been created, helps them to scale up the business. So like as an incubator, you need what you do to move the needle out. That's important.
Because, sir? Yeah, one or two things that you would do.
I think I will look for, if I am starting, somebody is trying to start a new incubator, I think there must be a very strong local ecosystem supporting that incubator. For example, let's say in Kozhikode, I would expect the top 5 industrial groups to lean Kozhikode to support that incubator. Why not just providing that business management, which is fine. But I think you must, beyond the Startup India Fund and the grants of Kerala Startup Mission and the Praya's scheme and the DSP scheme and whatnot, I think you must get local money into the local startups. So I would imagine that, let's say, if somebody were to start an incubator in Kozhikode, it has to be supported. It has to be supported by, let's say, PKCs, the VKCs and the Astrals. All of them, they can contribute a very, very small amount of, say, 5-10 lakhs per annum, form a corpus fund, a seed fund, to support the startups in Kozhikode. I mean, that's the only way I feel that the local ecosystem can benefit. So I would strongly say strong bonding between the incubator and the local industries high network group.
That's a valid point. I guess, the consortium of the industries handholding the startup ecosystem is something which we call it as a need of our. Preethi.
Yeah, for me, I think I would like to extend what PKG sir told to a little more. Like, the incubation will have to be a bit kind of inclusive ecosystem, wherein, as Swethal was telling, in having this kind of an exchange program, giving them a feel of what is there outside this small system, but at the same time, as PKG sir was telling, completely utilizing what is there in that ecosystem. And yes, connecting, whether it is technology, whether it is the local system, local bodies that which could help them, and even having a taste of what is happening outside. But equipping them more, or rather the incubator will be more of a facilitator. Connecting them or linking the companies or startups with different stakeholders of the ecosystem, which they will benefit. And of course, the model of co-incubation is very much there right now with, connecting with the different other incubators also. Only the days are gone yet, whereas one startup is just connected to one incubator, but they have connections with multiple incubators where, basically to get them the maximum benefit of the whole system. So that is the model which we also need to follow, having all these three kind of connections, which ultimately will be the most beneficial for the startup.
We are building an interesting conversation, but with the interest of time, we need to close. But with some very valid points, from this panel of eminent experts. Before concluding, I would like to take the questions from audience. So we are ditto on time, but do we have the time to take some questions?
I got a question to Swethal and one question to PKG as well. So let me ask first with PKG. PKG, you said that the pipeline is broken, right? So we got a huge influx on one side, we got an investment which is coming into the pipe, which is on a smaller side. But to fix that particular pipeline, what do we need to do from an ecosystem perspective? What would be your suggestion?
Just get the top 10 industries of Kozhikode to be angel investors.
That's a tough job, but then we will try that, right?
I think City 2.0, we were discussing in the morning, one of the key takeaways of City 2.0, while Professor Devashi said all those four, I think the fifth one is the enabler for startups, which is the investment bank, the risk capitals, right? So you need the local industries to support the local startup ecosystem.
Right, thank you, sir. The question to Swethal. Swethal, you said very rightly saying that, we need to get it startups or somebody from outside of Kerala, right? Western, could be north and stuff and so on. But see, the way the Kerala Startup Mission is structured is they support Kerala registered startups, right? So, what is the incentives? What are the different types of incentives that we can offer for a startup which is coming from, let's say, Bihar, UP, or Chhattisgarh, anywhere? Because governments in there also would be having some sort of an ecosystem like this. But what do you think? I mean, you have been, traveling a lot across the countries as well as in India. Can you give us some pointers, which would help us to attract those type of startups where we can offer something very unique, different? Because if you look at what I understand from the ecosystem here is KSUM has done a wonderful job in churning out the bottom of the pyramid, right? Because there are a lot of grants which is given starting from 1 lakh, 3 lakh, 5 lakh, 12 lakh, 15 lakh. So we have seen that. But when you go up the ladder on the pyramid, we have a challenge there. But if you can give some insights where we need to work, then probably, that will be really helpful from your experience.
No, it's a good question, Sir Anil. But before that, let me comment on what Mr. PKG said. See, UAE has actually home for a lot of business community from Northern Kerala, right? And I totally agree that this, when it comes to for them is like a, investing in a startup is like a drop in the ocean. It's like literally peanut. But still, all this business community are still not contributing. It's really like a rounding of error. Trust me, looking at their balance sheet, even if they put $1 million and all to a startup or distributing that $1 million to multiple startups, but still that the mindset change is required. I totally agree with, and I one of my friends actually, he was the CIO of Lulu Group, and I also know the chief commercial officer, and I asked the same question: why is not Lulu Group investing in the startups? Right? So at least you create a fund, right? They can be fund of fund. You create a fund here, they can be just come as a LPs for them or any such, I don't know, I don't want to name that, but I think there's a lot of company who can actually create a LP fund to create a Kerala focused VC fund or Kerala focused angel fund, So that's possible, but I think it's require a lot of awareness, mindset change, and I'm sure KSUM is doing. So coming back to your question, I think what you need to do to attract other startup is, first of all, look at the pipelines that we have in the whole, the startups, whether with KSUM, with NIT or anywhere, and see that in the value chain what is missing, right? There will be, I'm sure, somewhere in the downstream or upstream something is needed, right? You may have something unique about yourself, but there is something can be attracted to downstream to support or to supply to the startup, or upstream where they can support to that. So that's one of the ways to look at how you attract. For example, we spoke about charge mode, right? Amazing startup with all this charging infrastructure, but we need more, maybe the ride-hailing startups, right, to come over here. I invested in a Blue Smart, one of the startups in India, and I always see that this kind of a startup can come, but what are the incentive for them? Why would they come? Right? They will go to any other big cities. Why they want to come to Kerala? So I think these are the things needs to look at a policy level, at the ecosystem, the incubant ecosystem like KSUM and all. What they need to do to attract, to fill the gap, right? That's most important. The first things to look at that. Plus, I think a lot of startups, in other part of the India or in different part of the world, they have some products which they need to source is also from a place like Kerala, right? Let's say, for example, the startup who's doing amazing, the coffee business. Now, for them to source coffee is so easy if you attract the startups and come over here, and there's the producers, they can be close to the producers. Right? So I think those are the elements needs to be looked at, how you can attract, which kind of startups to attract, what is the sectors of the startups. Kerala is a home for space also, right? Can we attract some international space tech startup who can work with ISRO or DRDO over here, even for the component manufacturing or for anything. We are working on creating a mobility fund, and we looked at actually the lot of great space techs, a lot of mobility space startup, but specifically when zooming into the space tech, we found amazing startups are here in India compared to other part of the world, But given that already there are space tech is so much things happening, government is supporting the space tech startup. Why not Kerala think of creating their own space tech ecosystem, right? So these are the various ways to see that you attract the startup. So I think this can go on and on, to be honest, when I start explaining. But in nutshell, what I'm saying that look at your value chain. Where is the gap? You can fill that.
I think one help that we would need from Swethal is he becomes City 2.0's mentor and advisor from that perspective, right? We would really happy to have your association with us.
Consider it is done.
Okay, thank you very much.
Deal closed.
It's not a question, it's my statement. See, all of you are looking for innovation. You talked about space technology and all that. So this Gaganyaan is around 650 crore business. If you look at the mobile market, around four Chinese companies are dominating. That market is around 30,000 crores. Why any of the investors are making effort to create a company who can make Indian brand? See, there is something called benchmarking. Open up the mobile and you can create a competitive product. Why we are giving 30,000 crore Indian mobile market to Chinese companies? Why none of the investors are investing in a company and creating a brand? There is no company exists which can compete against Chinese companies. But why don't you all of you sit together and invest in a India brand product? Not only in mobile, anything what we are importing in large numbers. This is one of the biggest market. So since you're talking about Gaganyaan, that is only 650 crore. So we don't have any Indian brands which we can export all over the world. So
I have a very good point, to be honest. Recently I was talking to someone about the same thing on the brand. So India has not focused on the brand for many years, right? I mean, except we have big players likes of Tata and Reliance and all. But when it comes to the entrepreneurship ecosystem in general, we never focused on the brand. I'll give you one example, very good example. A company, if you know a startup, Egos. Have you heard of Egos? It's an egg brand, to be honest. So what they have done that they noticed there's tons and 60 million the stats that the eggs have been consumed daily in India, right? There's so many 600 million, but there's no brand for the egg, right? So what they've done that they learned from actually Amul model. So Amul is one of the home brand, you can say, the butter and all. It's actually you can say one of the first Indian startup which is branded, which is becoming a global, right? So I think that when they're looking at the branding side, that is what the use case which they have kind of looked at. The Amul is pretty much there in every home, and egg is also pretty much there in every home, right? And here I'm talking about zero technology. This is not a technology at all. It's a very simple, basic problem of everybody that we are eating an egg, but we don't know the brand. We don't know where this egg coming from. So they have actually focused on the branding. So they raise a lot of capital, by the way. One of the VC funds, invested is Ivy Cap Venture. The partner is a very good friend of mine, and he was also telling me that why they invested is not, investing in this kind of a startup. First of all, a lot of VC will stay away, But they look at that. What they are trying to do is that by branding a product, even creating a more of a premium product for that. And at the same time, they are also aggregating the farmer or the farm which they're producing the egg, was more scalable opportunity for them to invest. Because once you create a brand, once you create all the farms who are going to supply them, they also started selling the raw material for them, for the chicken. So essentially they created the whole ecosystem, and it's I think going to be the unicorn soon. So coming back to your point, I think definitely there's a lot of focus needs to be done on branding. Boat is another example of a local brand which is competing with the international brand likes of JBL, likes of Bose. I think these are the few examples which I believe that it is happening in India.
but more and more needs to be done.
Hope that answers your question. So we would have loved taking more questions, but within the interest of time, we need to conclude the session. I think, this panel has discussed some very crucial, points about how to create the strong incubation ecosystem in Calicut, in Kerala. Some investment related things like, how crucial it is for an incubator to think from pulling the investors, attracting the investors. Some amazing discussions, some points by Swethal to create a hub and spoke kind of model to connect all the stakeholders. How academia and incubation can collaborate hand on hand, and how we think about converting the research projects to commercialization level. I guess all those points are very insightful. Thanks a lot, my esteemed fellow panelists. I guess your presence in this event of repute is itself an honor, and really glad, and it's really an honor and pleasure to me to moderate this esteemed panel. Thanks a lot, and all the best to kudos to KTX team, Ajay sir, Anil sir, and all the city 2.0 team for pulling up this amazing event. Thanks a lot.